All right, let's move on to our facts or facts. And we want to talk about how you heat and cool your home has a major impact on the planet. About 20% of America's energy-related greenhouse gas emissions come from our home heating and cooling. It amounts to about 441 million tons of carbon dioxide every year. Now, the cooling side is especially dangerous for the environment because most air conditioners use refrigerant, which adds to those emissions.
Right, and so there's a nonprofit group, it's called Rewiring America, and they want to help Americans all over the country make that switch to green energy, especially those in underserved communities. So political leader and activist Stacey Abrams recently joined Rewiring America, joining us today to talk a little bit about everything you guys are doing. How are you?
I am well. Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you here in studio. So I guess, like, real quick, Rewiring America, what's the main cause? I'm assuming you're helping homeowners try to do the transition on a more economical, stage.
Well, we want to do it for homeowners. We want to do it for renters. We want to do it for Americans. We have, as Americans, access to what we like to call our electric bank account. Because of the Inflation Reduction Act that passed a couple of years ago, every American is entitled to roughly $1,800 a year.
Every American?
Every American. So I mean, your kids may not be able to take advantage of it just yet, but most taxpayers can take advantage of this money. And for low to moderate income families in particular, who want to do something, who want to help address this challenge, they think, well, I want to do something, but it's too expensive, or it seems like such a small change. But as you pointed out, 20% of the energy emissions are from heating and cooling. When you add in all of the rest of home energy costs, it's about 42% of emissions, of carbon-related emissions. And so what Rewiring wants to do is we want to connect people to your money. We want to give you the freedom and the opportunity to invest in the planet, invest in who we are.
So why did you decide to get involved in this group? Why is this so important to you?
So this has been an issue that has mattered to me for many years. I grew up on the Gulf of Mexico and the Gulf Coast. I live near what they refer to as Cancer Alley. It's an area of Mississippi and Louisiana where environmental issues were never addressed and where access to power was denied because people didn't have the resources, they didn't know what to do. And so my college thesis was on environmental justice issues. I interned for the EPA a couple of summers, actually ending up working in DC for the EPA under President Clinton. I spent time in the legislature working on these issues. So while most people don't realize this has been a part of who I am, for me, environmental justice is part of democracy. Democracy is about how do we control our lives, how do we have better lives, and making certain that we have a planet and a future is a big part of democracy.
So how do we, you have something that's passed like this, and there's a lot of unknowns. Stephanie's like, everybody has this? There's a lot of us who don't know that it's out there, A. B, if it is out there, it seems like it's kind of intimidating to access those funds. So is that where you guys step in?
That's why I'm here. It's like you read our propaganda.
Why is it so hard for us to get the funds, though?
Well, part of it is it's new. So we, as you know, the legislation passed, but now it's time to start deploying it. And we've seen pieces of it. When you hear about the new electric vehicles that are getting rebates, when you hear about the batteries and the new stations, or you hear about the chips, all of those are part of the money that's coming from this legislation. But the mission of Rewiring is to make sure that everyday Americans know that they get it too. This isn't just for corporations, it's for individuals. And so that's exactly why I'm on board, to connect people to their money and to connect us to our opportunities. And so go to rewiringamerica.org and you can learn more about what's available for you.
What would you say is the biggest challenge keeping people from converting to clean energy?
Fear. For example, there has been this trope that if you want there to be clean energy, you've got to give up your gas stove. I have a gas stove. I also have a hot plate, an induction plate, because I saw it on TikTok and it looks really cool. And it works. And so for families who want to upgrade your appliances, you don't have to leave what you have now, but as you're upgrading, as you're making choices, there's now money to help you make better choices, to make smarter choices that are actually more economic for you. If you need to improve your heat pump because your heat or your air goes out, now you can get one that's electric and that can actually save you money going forward. That's what we want to do. We want to connect people to their money and our money to our future.
And how does environmental justice factor into this equation for you guys?
We know that communities that are economically disadvantaged, communities of color, tend to be on the losing end of environmental choices. They tend to be located near environmental degradation. They tend to have to they don't get to make choices. And so part of what we want people to understand is if you've got a child with asthma, shifting to an induction stove can help because 13% of asthma-related issues can be traced to concerns about what's happening in the home. So let's help kids have access. I'm not saying you have to do everything And like the movie, you don't have to do everything everywhere all at once. But we can all do something somehow soon. And that should be our mission.
You mentioned the heat pumps and you mentioned the electric stoves. Can you use this money towards other appliances in your house?
Yeah,
Like
kind of give us a list. Like, what would be your first step?
Yeah.
So it's insulation. It's the heat pump. It is the induction stoves. It's a charging station. It's an electric vehicle. And we should know there's the tax credits, which are available now. And there's some rules to it because it's the government. But then there are also rebates that are going to start coming at the state and local level later on in the year. And that's why we encourage everyone to go to rewiringamerica.org, sign up. We have a calculator. If you put your information in, we can tell you how much we think you're entitled to. And we're building out even more tools so that we can walk through your house with you and tell you what you've got in your house, or you tell us, we're not spying. You tell us what's in your house and we can tell you what you can upgrade. Because the goal is to move to electrify as much as we can. Again, we can't solve every problem, but we can start to mitigate the problems we have, and everyone can do something. And for the first time, there is help. You're not being forced out of the conversation because you can't afford it. We can now all afford to do more. And that's why we're in this together.
Yeah, it's like you're holding our hand along the way. We only have about 30 seconds left, but do you have maybe a success story for someone who literally came to you guys, knew nothing, and then you actually helped out in a dramatic way?
Actually, well, I wouldn't say a dramatic way, but just today I was talking to a friend of mine who was at my house to help with something, and she wanted to know about her stove. And I said, you can get an induction stove. And she was like, wait?
Yeah, like,
and I was like, yeah, it's $50 to get an induction hot plate. You can't this solves a problem for her. And she was saying, well, I'm not sure I can afford it. I'm like, yeah, you can.
Wow.
And if you go to the calculator, we can tell you how you can get
cool.
it. You can get it
really
underwritten
great.
for you.
That's easy.
Stacey Abrams, thank you so much
Stephanie,
for coming
Jordan,
in.
it's my honor.
And also Rewiring America and all the good that you're doing. We really, really appreciate
It's
it.
all about helping because it can get confusing.
Yes.
It really can.
But she just made it real
I know,
simple.
it's
That's all I
simple.
gotta say.